All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephanie Stombach, and I work with the Child Nutrition Office. And this afternoon, we're going to discuss some updates and reminders from Child Nutrition, things that occurred last month, and some hot topics, and other things to be aware of for next month, and in the future. So this webinar is being recorded and it will be posted on our website at a later time, so it can be accessed as needed. All right, so this is our agenda for this afternoon. So first, we're going to discuss some key updates and hot topics. We're going to go over some reminders and deadlines. There were some recent USDA policy memos that came out from USDA, so to make sure everyone is in the loop with those and has access to them. We'll discuss some upcoming events and trainings and then end with Q&A. All right, so we hope that those who are able to attend our fall info meeting last month enjoyed the training and got a lot out of it. It was held on October 17th at the Augusta Civic Center, and this is a training where we talk about any updates and specific training topics for everyone to be aware of. We had a great turnout, and just wanted to let everyone know that all the presentations have been posted on our website. We had a great lineup of presenters, and some of the topics that were discussed included a culinary skills presentation from Let's Go, which is discussing the culinary skills for school meals training. We had some staff from our regional office in Boston come up and talk about local procurement, and then had a panel session with some food service directors. Jane did an update on child nutrition in our office, and then Christy White wrapped up the day with a inspiring presentation on rethinking the daily flow of your kitchens. So I hope everyone that came left feeling inspired and learned something new, and feel free to use these presentations. And so what I'm going to do today is a high-level overview of some of the DOE child nutrition updates from the meeting and go into some hot topics that we've been hearing in our office. So first, we're going to start with some federal updates. And as most of you are likely already aware, there were updated school nutrition standards that USDA released in the spring of this year. So this is a timeline of those updates and how they'll be phased in. So as far as this year is concerned, there aren't any changes. There are some menu flexibilities that I wanted to talk about in the next few slides and focus on those because those are most present. But just to make everyone aware, in the fall of 2025, that will involve some added sugar limits for cereal, yogurt, and milk. And then in the fall of 2027, there will be additional standards for added sugars and sodium based on a percentage of calories. So just things that are coming down the road. But to focus on meal planning flexibilities for this school year. Schools can continue to substitute vegetables for fruit at school breakfast. And really this flexibility is trying to simplify the vegetable variety requirement. So for this school year, 2024 to 25 only, you can offer vegetables in place of fruits at breakfast, and there's no subgroup requirements. But starting in school year 2026, if you choose to substitute vegetables for fruit, um, it must come from two different vegetable subgroups. So that means if you want to offer hash browns or potatoes, you still can, but over the course of the week, you'll have to add another vegetable subgroup, such as carrots or celery sticks, because those come from different subgroups. So it's just a way of increasing the variety of vegetables at breakfast. Again, this is still optional. It's not a requirement to offer vegetables at breakfast, but if you choose to, this is what you would have to follow. Another flexibility is regarding breakfast. So there's a flexibility in offering grains at breakfast. So it establishes a combined grains and meat alternate component, and this is for grades K through 12, so all age groups. So it removes the requirement for schools to offer 1 ounce of grain each day. So instead you could offer a meat alternate in place of grains, if that's something that you would like to do. Or you can offer a combination of both. And this is a flexibility for this current school year. Again, you're not required to make any changes to menus. It's optional. If you want to offer more protein items like eggs, cheese, yogurt. And I really see this flexibility as an effort to start to reduce added sugars in school breakfast because a grain isn't required. And sometimes that's where you see more of your added sugars come into play. So speaking of added sugars, so the final rule, nutrition standards from USDA, included a two-step approach to reducing added sugars in schools. So there is a product, it starts with a product-based limit that must be implemented by July 1st of 2025. So that will start next school year. And so it lists the grams of added sugar for breakfast cereals, yogurt, and flavored milk, as you can see on the screen. And then there's the second phase is weekly limits. So that's looking at calories from added sugar must be less than 10% of total weekly calories. And this is in addition to the product-based limits. And that doesn't take effect until 2027. And I would say for the product-based limits that manufacturers are right on top of this. I've already seen in some schools that I've been to, cereals that already meet the new requirements, as well as reduced sugar yogurt. So I don't see the product-based limits to be very they're much of a barrier. And also just keep in mind with these new standards is that it's added sugar and not total sugar. So it's important with label reading to know that it's added sugar and doesn't include naturally occurring sugars. So as a result of these updated standards, Team Nutrition, which is the educational arm of USDA, they have created some training or a training series called The Road to Successful Menu Planning for School Meals. And we have a link to the trainings on our website on the training page. And they're on-demand trainings that I think could be helpful in meeting professional standards for staff. And on-demand meaning they can click on them when it works for them or when they have time to review. The on-demand trainings are 15 minutes each, and one of them includes a training on defining added sugars and how to locate added sugars on a nutrition facts label. And then they also have a 1-hour recorded webinar. So I think these could be helpful with meeting professional standards. All right, so let's talk about Buy American. So the Buy American provision ensures that only US grown or produced products are purchased in child nutrition programs. And so with all the changes to the nutrition standards, um, they have added some limited exceptions. And I know there's a lot on the screen, but if you look at the right-hand side where it goes over the cap on non-domestic products, essentially what is happening is USDA is only allowing a certain percentage of non-domestic product to be purchased. And this is total foods purchased in the meals programs. So currently there isn't a cap on non-domestic products, but that will start in school year 26. So for next school year. Um, on more the right-hand side are limited exceptions to the rule. So this includes items that are listed on what's called the FAR list, which is Federal Acquisition Rule, that I think all federal programs follow. So an item that's on the FAR list is not produced or manufactured in sufficient quantities in the US. And so those can be part of your 10% cap. So that will include like your mandarin oranges and canned pineapple that we often see are from China or from another country. So those are exceptions to the rule. And then of course, if you're going out to bid and the cost of the US product is a lot higher, that's also justification of not going with the US product. So there are some exceptions to the rule. And we also understand that this is going to be difficult due to the fact that not all products have the country of origin listed. But for this year, we recommend just taking a look at what you're buying. If it's non-American, kind of roughly where you stand as far as that 10% goes. And just kind of looking at what that documentation would look like. And the Buy American memo is posted on our website, and we'll likely be doing more training as this takes effect next school year. Next is the Federal Local Foods for Schools, or LFS, announcement. So we received news in October that the federal fund has been extended. So this was going to be a temporary local foods money and ending in December. And we received the announcement that it will go beyond that time period. And it's also going to be expanding to childcare as well. As of right now, we don't have any other information. We just know that it's being extended, and the amounts that USDA is going to be allocating national. But we do think that with extending this funding source, that could also help schools in meeting the Buy American provision, because the more local products you buy, the more where the source is coming from and can meet the Buy American provision. So as we hear more, we'll keep everyone aware. So those were more federal updates, and now I'm going to discuss some state-specific updates. So as many of you know who check the direct certification list, you likely have seen that there's some new categories. And this is a result of Maine participating in the Medicaid expansion program. So now we have Maine Care students that are listed on the DC list. There are two new categories: Maine Care Free, which is letter A on the list, and then Maine Care Reduce, which is letter Z. And these benefits carry to other family members, like any other child that's on the direct cert list. Just keep in mind that Maine Care Reduced cannot count towards your CEP or community eligibility provision numbers because those income guidelines meet the reduced category and not the free. So they need to be eliminated for CEP purposes. And we'll talk about CEP in the next slide. Participation in Maine Care is also not an automatic qualifier for school meal benefits if they are not found on the DC list. So if you get a Maine Care number on an application, if you're doing traditional programming and still accepting applications, if you get a Maine Care number on an application, it does not automatically qualify them for free meals. This is just the case if you find them on the DC list. So going into Medicaid expansion and community eligibility provision a bit more, because this has created an opportunity for more schools to qualify and apply for CEP. So because of the Medicaid expansion where those Maine Care students are now captured on the DC list, and the CEP qualifying percentage is now 25%, or 25% of the enrollment needs to be students that are directly certified. This could have a significant change and allow more schools to participate in CEP with the 25% eligible percentage. So this also maximizes federal funds, so less are coming from the state budget because as a result of finding more students on the DC list, you're going to get more federal reimbursement for free meals that are served. And so we have some requests to just make sure that schools are taking advantage of this opportunity, is to start looking at your numbers now. So programs that are currently running CEP, look to see if you can increase your identified student percentage, which is ISP, and that's the amount of directly certified students, to see if you can increase that number. If you are currently running special provision 2, look to see if you can move to CEP, again, to take advantage of that program, where you're not collecting applications every year, or with SP2 every 4 years. And if you're currently running a traditional program, to consider either CEP or special provision 2. And the way CEP works is you must use your DC information and enrollment data from April 1st. So it must come from that date. But it wouldn't be a bad idea to just look at your numbers now, see where you're at, and put a reminder on your calendar now and think about a plan B just in case. And David will be discussing this more in a separate webinar in February. So we'll have more details at that point. All right, so let's talk about unanticipated school closures, because I feel like this is coming up a lot. We're getting a lot of calls and emails with people wondering about specific scenarios and are we eligible for the waivers? So Maine has opted into waivers where we can provide non-congregate meal service when operations are limited due to natural disasters, unscheduled building repairs, and so on. And so for unanticipated, or just keep in mind that these are for unanticipated school closures and are not planned. So if a snow day is coming up and the district wants to offer meals and it's a virtual learning day, you can do that because it's a um, virtual school day. And so lunch must be provided, and therefore the meals can be reimbursable. An example of an unanticipated school closure would be election day when school is closed because they're using the building for voting or for a staff training. That is planned. And even if that is a remote school day or a virtual learning day, um, those meals would not be reimbursable because it was planned. It's not unanticipated. Um, and if anyone has any questions or needs more clarification, please reach out to us. Um, and there was a priority notice that went out to superintendents last month or possibly earlier this month, and we have that posted on our website as well to kind of go through each step of the process. Um, and then I've also put in a link here where the waiver form is on our website. And so these are the waivers you can opt into. So non-congregate meal service times, if you want to offer breakfast and lunch at the same time or distribute both meals at the same time. Parent guardian pickup, if a pickup option is available, and then offer versus serve at high schools, because that's a requirement, a regular requirement. All right, so the next topic is pre-K expansion and offsite meals. So this is in regards to schools or sites that are not participating in any of our programs. So they don't have an annual application with the Child Nutrition Office. Um, so essentially, only meals that are served to children in an eligible school that's participating in our program can be reimbursed. Um, and so we've come across some situations with pre-K where the students are going to school in a separate building. It's not on the same campus as the where the other students are. So that's an example of off-site meals. And if you have a situation like that in your school and you're not sure how it should be handled, please reach out to our office. I know that Jane has worked with a lot of schools to figure out how that would all play out. Um, so so she would be the best contact person for that. All right. Some other updates in our office is I wanted to mention that we have some new team members at Child Nutrition. So we have Nicholas Lebrec. He is a child nutrition supervisor on our team. And replaced Adrian Ackroyd, which I'm sure many of you know Adrian. So I've included his email, and he'll be focusing on program reviews, the summer food service program, and civil rights. And then we also have Miles that started today. Today was actually his first day. He is the data and technology systems coordinator, so we'll be doing CNP web. And so we would just like to welcome them to the team and are very, very excited to have them join us and expand our team. We also have some contractors that have been hired as part of a USDA Farm to School formula grant. And part of this grant is funding a regional local foods project. Martha Poliquin, um, who is the former director from Falmouth, she is the project manager. So she's overseeing the project and the coordinators. And this year is our pilot year. And we have 4 regional coordinators in the regions listed on the screen. So we have York, Down East, Western Maine, and Aroostook. And the next year, we'll have coordinators in each of the 9 superintendent regions. So if you don't have a coordinator in your area this year, you will next year. And they are working on making connections with districts in their region right now. So we welcome them to Child Nutrition. Their email is firstname.lastname@maine.gov. All right, so that takes care of updates and hot topics. We just wanted to share some reminders and deadlines. So we have the October survey that was due this month, that needed to be filed before the October claim could be completed. And hopefully everyone was able to do that. And we have a help document in CNP Web. So hopefully people found that helpful, especially for CEP and Special Provision 2 districts that really broke down all the steps for completing the survey. Today is the equipment grant deadline. So hopefully you're able to get in your application for that. And then later this month, well, actually this week, verification reports are due November 20th in CNP Web. If you are doing traditional claiming based on free, reduced, and paid. And then the USDA Foods pre-survey is due on November 22nd. And we put all of these important reminders and deadlines in our Thursday update. So be sure to read that for any upcoming updates and things to be aware of that require attention. So next, we're going to just review some recent USDA policy memos. We get notification of these through USDA and are to share with the field. So these are all posted on our website for people to read in more detail. So the first one is fluid milk requirements for school meals. And so this just updates the current guidance on fluid milk. And beginning in July 1 of 2025, that flavored milk must contain no more than 10 grams of added sugars per 8 ounces. It also clarifies substitutions for non-dairy milk products, and that there were no changes as a result of the final rule. And then the second one is questions and answers related to the substitution of vegetables for fruit flexibility in the school breakfast program. And that is the same information that I shared earlier, that 1 day per week you can offer vegetables from any vegetable subgroups, but then if you're offering vegetables on 2 or more days, they have to come from 2 different vegetable subgroups. And I know that that's like a mouthful and a lot of information, so the memo would go into more details about that. And then the other 2 I wanted to mention that doesn't necessarily apply to everyone that's on this call. The first one is related to providing a more culturally relevant foods for different communities. So this allows vegetables to be substituted for grains in tribal communities. And we have a few tribal communities in our state that this would apply to. And then the second one is fees for electronic payment services in the school meals programs. So this would be if you are a traditional program and you claim based on free, reduced, and paid that any student that is eligible for free reduced price benefits, they won't have to pay additional fees for using an electronic payment system. So for example, NutriKids, they wouldn't get charged to put money on their account or something related to that. And then we just wanted to share some upcoming events and trainings that we have scheduled. So December 16th, we have another monthly webinar, and we're testing out a new webinar format focusing on key updates and reminders, as well as any training content that we feel needs to be shared. So that's kind of our plan for monthly webinars going forward. And then this Wednesday, we're excited to have a local foods training, hands-on in the kitchen, that Katie and Melissa from Harvesting Good Broccoli have put together. And so that is happening this Wednesday in our culinary classroom. And registration is full. So there aren't any other spots available, but just wanted to let everyone know what is happening this month for training. All right, so that wraps up everything for the presentation. So if you have any questions, please enter them in the Q&A box and we'll get to them now.
We have one question.
Okay.
If you offer hash browns in addition to a fruit at breakfast, do you still have to offer additional vegetables from another subgroup?
So I think the question is, if you're offering vegetables in addition to fruit, like you're not substituting a vegetable for a fruit, I would think that it would still, because you would still want to offer it as part of the fruit or vegetable component, or else you wouldn't be able to count it as anything. So I feel like it kind of counts as your overall fruit and vegetable offering. So I would say that you would have to offer a second vegetable from one of the other subgroups. But if I didn't completely understand your question, please email me and I can troubleshoot it a little more.
Can we still use a program that charges fees for parents to add money on child's account for a la carte or second meals?
So based on that memo, if the student is a reduced student, they qualify for reduced price meals, that parent should not be charged to put meals on their account, whether it's a la carte or second meals.
They're talking about that additional fee, right? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it would be for an additional fee, like through NutriKids, that they would get charged a certain percent to put money on their account. They can't be charged that additional percentage.
In reference to that last question, does that apply to CEP schools as well?
Yes, so it would apply to CEP schools. So if you have a program that offers a la carte and a student qualifies for free meals, well, which actually for CEP, you wouldn't know because you're not collecting applications. So actually it wouldn't apply to CEP because this is only in regards to traditional claiming.
Who is responsible for paying the fee?
Um, I will need to read up on the memo a little more. But if it is a free or reduced eligible student, they are not supposed to pay for it. But I will, if you could send me an email, whoever wrote the question, I'll get back to you.
Hi, Stephanie, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, I just, you're doing a wonderful job and I hate interrupting. I just want to remind folks that the requirement for the fees does not begin the school year, so they don't panic. It's for school year FY27. And I can't remember if you said that. If you did, I
I
apologize.
did not, but thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome and sorry for interrupting.
No, thank you. That was very helpful.
Okay, you can go back to mute.
So yes, that is very helpful. So that will not take effect until 2027. All right, any other questions?
So if we offer home fries when we have leftover roasted potatoes from lunch the next day for breakfast as an extra, not a vegetable, I am assuming it is okay.
If it's an extra and not being counted. Um, I would have, let me read the Q&A on on the vegetable subgroups for breakfast, because I don't know the answer to that. But I think that would also cause confusion for staff to know that it's an extra, so it doesn't, if a student comes through the line with the potatoes, they can't count it as anything. So I would think it would be easier to just add another vegetable subgroup that week versus count it as an extra and possibly have it cause more confusion for staff and students.
Do we have an estimated date when the USDA will let you know when FLS will be available? LFS?
Oh, for the local food for schools. Um, we do not have an estimated date of when that is going to come out. Um, but once we have more information, we'll share it as soon as we get it. But we don't have a timeline right now. 4 of our staff are going to the state agency meeting that USDA puts on next month. So we're hoping we'll have more information. But as of right now, we don't have a timeline.
I am not seeing any more
Okay.
questions.
All right. Well, some good questions, and thanks everyone for joining and for your feedback. For those that I possibly misunderstood your question, please reach out to me directly. And if you want to discuss it in more detail, and I can also do more research on those specific memos. So hope everyone has a great week and Thanksgiving, and that you enjoy some time off during that time. So have a good afternoon, everyone.